We're going to start off today talking about the framing of federal finance. Khanna, a very well-known progressive in the House. I think he's kind of progressive, but when he does stuff like this, it really pisses me off. So we're going to show you a tweet that he put out earlier. There we go. So this is, I retweet him. He says, cancel student debt and pay for it with a billionaire tax and transaction tax on Wall Street speculation. So the pay for is obviously the problem here to any of you who know MMT basics. At the federal level, taxes do not pay for spending. The currency issuer creates new dollars when it creates, or in our case, dollars, creates new currency when it creates, and eliminates that currency from the economy when it taxes. So there is no way that you can pay for a federal spending bill with tax dollars. Taxes eliminate dollars, spending creates new dollars. Okay, that framing is, it might sound nitpicky, you guys, to anybody who hasn't really engaged much with MMT. The reason it matters so much is that the only arguments against robust spending programs that would help the poor and middle class, is the working class, etc. The only arguments against those kinds of programs, things like Medicare for all, things like a Green New Deal, things like canceling student debt, things like tuition-free college and new infrastructure and all these kinds of things that we talk about, housing reform, etc., etc. The only arguments against those programs, conservatives cannot argue against them on the merits. So what they have to do is do the how are you going to pay for it game. Well, if we just concede the framing to their neoliberal nonsense, which is not accurate, that is that taxes pay for things at the federal level. If we're conceding that ground to them, then we're much less likely to win the argument as it pertains to the rest of the population who might listen into that argument, right? So when we're having these narrative battles, we don't want to concede framing to the other side unnecessarily and arm them when our arguments are flat out stronger. If they have to argue against healthcare on the merits, how are they going to win? No, 3/4 or more of this country already supports Medicare for all, even though most of those people misunderstand federal finance, right? So when they have to argue on the merits, they lose. The only thing they can say is, how are you going to pay for it? And then they fearmonger about taxation, right? Oh, you're going to pay higher taxes if you pass these programs. So we can cut directly through the only argument that is in any way effective for conservatives against these social spending programs by simply disallowing them from misframing the argument. And I'm incredibly disappointed to once again see Khanna framing it in the incorrect way. My response here was taxes do not pay for federal spending, and this sort of neoliberal framing is incredibly harmful to the left. We must tax the rich for a myriad of reasons, but we also must decouple tax policy from discussions about spending at the federal level. So Khanna is somebody who I believe does understand at least the rudimentary level of MMT. And yet continues to frame things in this ridiculous, incorrect, and harmful way. And I think that's really too bad. I wish that these so-called progressives would hop on board with framing things not only accurately, but in a way that is more beneficial to the left and to achieving the policies that we all would like to achieve. So if you're unfamiliar with MMT, please do go to realprogressives.org. We have all sorts of educational content there. You guys watch the Macro and Cheese podcast with our founder and CEO, Steve Grumbine, which comes out on Saturdays. MMT is very important for people to understand. I know it sounds really dry and boring to a lot of people to talk about macroeconomics. It is really, really important to understand when we engage in these political battles and when we try to frame our narrative in the most effective possible way. And an ineffective strategy is to concede the grounds that taxes pay for federal spending. They do not. They simply do not. And I wish that Khanna and his colleagues would stop engaging in such harmful and incorrect framing.